I'd like to talk a little bit about a couple of different masking techniques in Photoshop. Um, some of the basics here, we have two layers with two separate images. One is of the sky and one is of the rock. Notice that when I click the view icon, you can hide certain layers just by selecting that little eye. And that's going to hide that layer, and you can see the one that's underneath. So layering order is important. Whatever image layer is on top, that's what you're going to just see, and it's going to hide whatever's on the bottom. So those are some of the basics on layer ordering. So if we were to select this rock, we want to delete the sky here, select just the rock, and show the layer below it, which happens to be the sky. One relatively easy way of doing that is to create a mask by selecting this quick selection tool. And if you don't see that, you can right click on that and you can select the quick selection tool right here. Change the size to about 30. Make sure that that icon is selected there. And then when you go down to your layer, make sure you're on the right layer. We're going to start selecting. So if you hold down the mouse button while you're dragging around the edges of the image, now making sure you're not going out of the area. And I'm just going to select this, make sure that everything is selected in here. So now we're going to get the selection right around this entire part of the rock. Once we have that selected, if we select the mask icon, which is right down here, click that once, that's going to make a mask of everything except for what we selected. So basically it gets rid of the entire sky of that image, and it reveals whatever layer was beneath it, which happens to be our sky layer. So that's a quick way of making a mask, and you can see the mask right here. Everything that's in black is masking, and that's going to reveal, the black reveals whatever is underneath it. The white conceals the mask. So that's the way we can look at it. So we have the rock right here. We have, if you can think about it, as a couple of pieces of paper stacked on top of each other. We have one paper down below on the bottom that was the sky, one piece of paper on top, which is the rock, and we took some scissors and maybe trimmed around the rock and then through this section of the piece of paper away, it reveals what's underneath it. So that's one way of looking and thinking about how a mask works. Another way, I was going to show you to create a shape. So we're going to create a shape, but first we're going to create another layer. So we have a layer going on here, and I'm going to select the circle tool. I'm going to hold down the shift key to make it a perfect circle, and I'm going to fill it in. You can fill it in with whatever color, but I'm going to choose this orange. I'm going to change the mode to multiply, and I'm going to change the opacity down to about 80. Now, I can also mask this to make it a gradient fill. So I'm going to select the gradient fill and making sure that we have the black to white, not the transparent one, but the solid colors, black to white. And that you'll find in the basics list. And then once you do that, we can come back down here and select your layer. Now that we have the gradient selected, select your layer that you have the shape on. And we're going to add a mask layer. Make sure that that's selected. We're going to go back over here and click and drag to create the gradient. And just like magic, you see what's happening here. It's dissolving this portion of it within a mask. So it's a gradient mask. And if I take the move tool here, I can reposition this however I want. If I wanted this to be truly behind, we can make it right around here. Behind that mountain, we can drag that layer so that it's behind the mountain. So that's one way of doing a gradient mask as opposed to a simple fill mask. Those are two examples of a masking tool, and of course we can select the text tool and we can add some text to our document, and we can change the size however we wanted. And we can reposition that with the Move tool. Right in the center here, we can add some effects by selecting the Effects button down here. And we can make a stroke if we wanted to. We can also make it glow if we wanted to, and so forth. So those are some options for text tools. And again, we can take the Move tool if we don't like the position. Notice that when I'm moving it around, Photoshop is actually telling me where it is in terms of the document itself. So I'm moving it around here. It gives me that line, that center line. It tells me that that's centered within the document itself. So this spacing is equal to that spacing there. So those are some examples of how to reorder layers and use some basic masking techniques.